from this sharing day, there will also be visits to the Legislative Council and the Hong Kong Museum of Coastal Defense as part of the campaign. The Fire Services Department said they were conducting rescue operations in response to the voltage dip at around 1:30 p.m. and members of the public are advised to stay calm if they're affected by the incident or got stuck in the elevators.
The public can also visit Memory Lane, where they can explore different classic Hong Kong film scenes and redesign costumes, such as A Guilty Conscience. Memos 9, TVB News.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. The Secretary for Environment and Ecology says only 20 to 50% of trialists at selected premises used the government's designated bin bags during the trial run of the solid waste charging demonstration scheme. 14 locations are involved in the scheme, which launched last Monday. Jacky Lin, speaking to TVB News, says it is too early to say if the garbage disposal initiative could be scrapped. Mimosa Ngai reports. The government plans to develop Hong Kong into a regional intellectual property trading center. The financial secretary says the authorities will introduce tax concessions and improve the copyright ordinance. Paul Chan said in his weekly blog post, the government will introduce a patent box incentive. The tax rate for qualifying profits derived from patents will be reduced from the current 16.5% to 5%. The Transport and Logistics Bureau withdrew the funding application to the Legislative Council for the Trunk Road T4 in Sha Tin. The artery's estimated cost has risen past $7.1 billion. Secretary for Security Chris Tang said some young people were brainwashed and incited during the 2019 social unrest to take part in anti-government acts. With that, Tang said national education is all the more pivotal for the new generation to understand about the country and the importance of national security.
Participating in this event is very fun and meaningful, and for me as a teenager it's very significant to know about the national security, and this event have made me understood more about how the system works.
Apart from this sharing day, there will also be visits to the Legislative Council and the Hong Kong Museum of Coastal Defense as part of the campaign.
Premier Li Qiang said China and the United States need to respect each other and should be partners, not adversaries, as he met U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. David Garrett reports. 6 people are still missing after a 7.2 magnitude earthquake hit Hualien County in Taiwan last Wednesday. 13 people have been killed in the disaster. Some shop tenants from the Uranus building are not pleased because local authorities have so far denied them compensation. Mimosa Ngai reports.
The 7.2
Today marks 6 months since Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, killing hundreds and taking hostages. It provoked on an Israeli war that has killed over 30,000 Palestinians in Gaza. Nasfi Karim with more. Israel's leader says his country's army is close to victory over Hamas. Benjamin Netanyahu has told international partners there will be no relaxation of the bombardment unless hostages are freed. Thousands were evacuated from a town in Russia near the border with Kazakhstan after a dam burst and water enveloped the city of Orsk. The country has declared it a federal emergency. A pro-Russian candidate has won Slovakia's presidential election. For the second year running, it was a New Zealand double at the Hong Kong Rugby Sevens. And the event is not just about the action on the pitch, but also as much about the activity off it. Fans bid farewell to the very last edition of Rugby Sevens hosted at the Hong Kong Stadium. And over the past 3 days, more than 100,000 spectators attended the tournament, 20,000 more than last year.
Probably go down to Lan Kwai Fong and celebrate and just have a bit of fun down there. It's quite fun to be there with the friends. We've got a lot of friends who have come in from England and Australia for the finals.
And to the weather, cloudy with the odd shower as the working week gets underway. There is almost no wind. And that's the news for tonight. Thank you for watching. Good evening and thank you for joining us. The city experienced another widespread power glitch today, the second time in a week. CLP Power's electricity supply system in Tumun had a brief voltage dip this afternoon, and that led to more than 100 people being trapped in lifts across Kowloon and the New Territories, and triggered multiple false fire alarms. CLP Power apologized for the incident, but said the voltage dip was inevitable because of an equipment malfunction amid the thunderstorm warning. The government, meanwhile, has asked for an explanation and remedial measures from the power company.
The Fire Services Department said they were conducting rescue operations in response to the voltage dip at around 1:30 p.m. and members of the public are advised to stay calm if they're affected by the incident or got stuck in the elevators.
Train services on the MTR's Kuntong line were disrupted today because of a defect. It is the third straight day a defect has affected MTR trains. The incident happened at around. The Hong Kong Tourism Board said firework and drone shows will be staged for the public in May and June. The government earlier said they will regularly hold firework and drone displays in a bid to attract tourists and boost the local economy.
The public can also visit Memory Lane, where they can explore different classic Hong Kong film scenes and redesign costumes, such as A Guilty Conscience. Memos 9, TVB News.
The demonstration scheme for the municipal solid waste charging program has been running for a week now, and there have been reports of residents facing difficulties in adapting to the scheme. An executive council member said the government will take feedback from citizens into consideration. The police have launched a 3-month taxi ambassador scheme to combat taxi drivers overcharging in Lan Kwai Fong. They are the taxi and in Taiwan, the quake-ravaged Hualien County was jolted by yet another earthquake this morning, scaled at magnitude 5.3 this time. It's one of the hundreds of aftershocks that have struck the island's east coast since a magnitude 7.4 earthquake hit Hualien on Wednesday. The death toll has risen to 13. Public memorial services were held today to mourn the victims. Vice Premier He Lifeng continued talks with U.S. Secretary of Treasury Janet Yellen in Guangzhou today. Xinhua News Agency said the two sides agreed to discuss a range of economic and financial issues, including balanced economic growth in both the United States and China. Daniel Rao tells us more. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said he wants an independent investigation into Israel's attack on an aid convoy on Monday that resulted in 7 deaths. This after Israel's military admitted it had made mistakes and sacked 2 commanders who played a part in the attack on cars carrying workers from charity group World Central Kitchen. Guterres also called for an immediate ceasefire. Nasfi Karim has more. In Australia, heavy rain in New South Wales has caused flooding in Sydney and surrounding areas, with residents warned that situation may get worse. Evacuation orders were issued for some areas. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida today visited the recently opened factory of Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturing firm TSMC in Kumamoto in the island of Kyushu. And tonight's Mark 6 numbers are 15, 16, 17, 30, 34, 35. The extra number is 25. Let's take a look at the weather before we go. It will be mainly cloudy with a few showers. Temperatures will range between 23 and 27 degrees Celsius. And that's the news for tonight. Thank you for watching.